Elon Musk recently put out a tweet, and in that tweet he said that Twitter, or X, whatever it's called this week, they would pick up the legal fees for anybody who had been unfairly treated by their employers as a result of something they had posted on Twitter, stroke X. So, can you all now just do a little deal with your boss and say, tell you what, I'll just pop off on Twitter, you discipline me, and we'll split the winnings. But in other words, is Elon Musk bound by that offer? Well, let's have a little look at this. We'll start with general contract principles. To be an enforceable contract, you need to have offer, acceptance, consideration, and intention to create legal relations. So what does that mean? Well, the offer is, this is what I am willing to do, and this is what I want in exchange. And the acceptance is, I am willing to do that. The other thing is, consideration is something of value must trade places each way. It doesn't have to be an equal trade or a fair trade. We've spoken about peppercorn rents, but the point of a peppercorn rent is something has changed hands. So, you get this land, but if they just said, well, you can just have this, I'm not bothered about rent. Well, there'd be no enforceable contract there. So basically you hand over the peppercorn and now it's, a contract because there has been consideration. But consideration doesn't have to be, money or objects. It could be things like giving up your time or just agreeing to do or not to do something. I mean, the standard, settlement agreements where somebody says, in exchange for this, I will agree not to sue you. Your consideration is just saying, okay, I won't sue you. So, that's the necessary elements. The intention to create legal relations just stops it when you sort of, promise your kid that if you mow the lawn, you'll take them to see the new Disney film. And then, they mow the lawn. It's like, well, no, it's a family thing. We didn't intend to create legal relations. Although kids, if your parents do try that one, give me a call. What is an offer? An offer is where, it's all very clear what you're saying. It's like, look, this is what I am offering to do or give, and this is what I want in exchange. But we also have this idea of what we call an invitation to treat, which is, look, I'm not making you an offer, but I'm letting you know I'm open to offers. And that can be things like putting things in shop windows. It seems to be reasonably well established that the mere fact somebody puts, something in a shop window and you're going to say, I'll buy that, they can say, well, actually, that's the window display or something like that, And these boundaries are, they're matters of fact. But Musk has said, I will do this. Okay, so that's an offer. But can you accept it? Well, you can accept offers just merely by performance. The classic example is, I put a poster up saying, my dog's missing, I'll give £50 to whoever brings it back. You can accept that offer just by turning up with my dog, and then I have to give you the £50. You've accepted the offer by performance. In other words, you don't need to give me any notice of it, you just do it. And this has cropped up in a couple of cases. Now, the classic English case here is one called Cahill and Carbolic Smokeball Company. What's a carbolic smokeball? I finally managed to track down a picture of one. But basically, the company advertised and said, right, if you buy one of our smokeballs and use as instructed, and you catch flu, we'll give you £100. They actually let put that up to £200. And they said, look, and here's proof, we've got £1,000 on deposit, to show we're serious. Anyway, Mr. Cahill bought one of said smoke balls and caught the flu, so he sued. And they went, no, come on, I was just advertising. Anyway, there's no contract, what's the consideration? And the court said, well, the consideration was he bought one of your smoke balls. And, that was an offer, it's nothing ambiguous about it. Cough up. And they had to pay up. There's a similar case in the US where a store was advertising fur coats, first come, for $1, first come, first served. And a guy turned up and went, I'd like one of your $1 fur coats, please. And they said, it's women only. And again, he turned up the next day and they said, well, you do know, because they kept advertising, putting these adverts in for bargains. And every time this guy turned up, they found some excuse not to give it. But again, he went to court and the court said, yeah, there's nothing ambiguous there. You can't, if you make a clear offer, you can't say, well, actually, there's more to it than that we need to discuss. I mean, this is why you'll see on all adverts like that, terms and conditions apply, just so that, they can put in all the extra stuff that they need to. So what would happen here? Well, let's say somebody, was disciplined and sort of went to, Musk and said, pay my legal fees. Is he bound by that? Well, what's the consideration? Well, I give the consideration is just, contacting Mr. Musk. Because again, there's been cases where it was like cereal packets, where it was, send off a cereal packet, or just write to us with a stamped addressed envelope, and we'll send you something, and then they'd run out. But people were able to bring claims and say, well, you owe us it. And again, they said, what's the consideration? And they said it was going to the trouble of, sending off the stamped addressed envelope, all the cost of the stamp. I mean, it doesn't have to be hard. So, going to the trouble of writing everything out in an email. Now, how might Musk get out of this? Well, he does say if you've been treated unfairly. So to qualify, you must have been treated unfairly, and who gets to decide that? Because a lot of his ex-staff have said, well, you sacked us for saying what a terrible boss you were, so please pay our legal fees. This is going to be sort of like an interesting one, because the obvious thing to do, because it doesn't necessarily whether they pay in advance or at the end. So go off, and if you were deemed to have been treated unfairly by a court, could Musk say, well, no, it's up to me what's unfair, not up to a court, because you've gone there. I mean, if somebody sued on the back of that, I think it would be interesting. I think if somebody applied and said, I have been treated unfairly, I mean, then what's he going to say? Well, we don't know yet. I don't, we'll leave it to the courts to decide. So, there might be an excuse not to pay up front, because he's not sort of reserved, he's not explained who gets to define unfairly. But yeah, if there was a finding by a court and then you retroactively sought your legal fees, that's an interesting one. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess. Yeah, hope you found that interesting. If you did, please consider clicking the like button, subscribing, sharing, all that sort of thing, other things that possibly YouTube can do. I've got no idea. Yeah, thanks for listening.